The dismissal. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a marvel of alien engineering. 7 massive pillars of crystalline material, each representing one of the founding species, stretched upward toward a ceiling that displayed a perfect real-time map of the explored galaxy. The chamber was designed to inspire awe, to remind visitors of the Council's might and wisdom. Today, however, it housed an increasingly heated debate. "The human question is settled," declared High Counselor Tavik, his translucent blue skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that indicated irritation. "It has been 27 cycles since the Proxima incident. The ban remains in effect." Around the circular table, representatives of the Council of Seven nodded in agreement. The Proxima incident, when human explorers accidentally triggered a chain reaction that destabilized an entire star system, had become the ultimate justification for keeping humanity quarantined to their home system. "With respect, Counselor," said Ambassador Vrel of the Namar Collective, her 6 eyes blinking in sequence, "there have been developments." A holographic display materialized above the center of the table, showing footage of human ships operating in the Outer Rim territories. Unlike the elegant, standardized designs favored by Council species, these vessels were a chaotic blend of salvaged parts and improvised modifications. "Scattered refugees and smugglers," dismissed Counselor John, "a massive entity composed of living metal. They pose no true threat to galactic stability." Ambassador Vrel's exoskeleton clicked softly as she manipulated the holographic controls. "Our intelligence suggests otherwise. These are not merely refugee vessels. They are organized, and they are innovating." The word hung in the air like a curse. Innovation, unpredictable, chaotic change, was precisely what the Council had been established to manage and control. Galactic civilization had achieved relative stability through careful regulation of technological advancement. Humans, with their reckless creativity and disregard for established protocols, threatened that stability. "Innovation without oversight leads to disaster," intoned Counselor Isrix, the eldest of the 7. The Proxima incident demonstrated this conclusively. "Perhaps," conceded Vrel, "but our continued dismissal of human capabilities may be short-sighted, especially now." The hologram shifted to display a remote star system near the galactic rim. At first glance, it appeared unremarkable. A yellow star orbited by 11 planets, only 2 within the habitable zone. But as the image zoomed in on the 4th planet, the Council members grew still. "The Nexus artifacts are activating," Vrel said softly. Even the most dismissive counselors couldn't suppress their reaction. The Nexus, remnants of a civilization that had vanished long before any current species achieved spaceflight, were among the greatest mysteries in the known galaxy. Most were dormant, studied for millennia without yielding their secrets, but an active Nexus site was unprecedented in recorded history. "When did this begin?" demanded Tavik. 3 standard days ago. Our research outpost detected the energy signature and sent this data before all communications ceased. The footage showed a massive structure rising from beneath the planet's surface, geometric patterns pulsing with a light that seemed to bend reality around it. Then the feed abruptly cut to static. "We have dispatched 3 investigative teams," Vrel continued. "None have reported back." "This is concerning," admitted Counselor John. "But what does it have to do with humans?" Vrel manipulated the controls again, and a new image appeared. A human woman with dark skin, close-cropped silver hair, and eyes that seemed to evaluate and dismiss the Council all at once. "Captain Sarah Voss," Vrel explained, "former commander in the Earth Defense Force before the ban. Now she operates on the fringes with a crew of human specialists. They've developed a reputation for solving problematic situations. You cannot be suggesting we employ outlaws." Tavik's skin flashed with patterns of shock and outrage. "I am suggesting we consider all available resources," Vrel replied evenly. "The Nexus activation is unprecedented. Our standard protocols have failed, and Captain Voss's vessel is currently 3 days from the affected system." "Absolutely not," said Counselor Isrix. "The ban exists for a reason. Humans are unpredictable, dangerous. They act on impulse rather than reason. They are creative," countered Vrel. "They think in ways we do not. And if the historical records of the Nexus are accurate, we may need such thinking very soon." For hours, the debate raged. In the end, the Council voted as they always did, conservatively, cautiously, in accordance with established precedent. The human ban would stand. Standard containment protocols would be escalated. A fleet would be dispatched to establish a quarantine perimeter around the affected system until the situation could be properly assessed. "The matter is settled," declared Tavik. "This council will not invite chaos to solve a crisis." As the session ended, Ambassador Vrel approached Counselor Isrix privately. "You know standard protocols will fail," she said quietly. "The historical records are clear about what a Nexus activation signifies." The ancient counselor's compound eyes regarded her impassively. "The council has made its decision. And if Captain Voss takes action independently, then she and her crew will be treated as the criminals they are," Isrix replied. "The ban is absolute." Vrel's mandibles clicked in what might have been frustration. The Nexus records speak of a harvesting cycle. If they are correct, we may have days before it spreads beyond containment. "Then we will respond according to protocol," Isrix said firmly. "This discussion is over, Ambassador." As Vrel departed, a small communication device in her possession transmitted a tight beam message to a non-council frequency. "Request denied. Proceed at your discretion. Deniability maintained." 3 days later, and several thousand light-years away, Captain Sarah Voss stood on the bridge of the Pariah, a ship that had been rebuilt and modified so many times that it barely resembled its original design. Through the view screen, she observed the fourth planet of an unremarkable yellow star, or rather, what remained of it. The planet's surface was now dominated by a massive structure that seemed to defy conventional geometry, angles and lines shifting in ways that made the human brain protest. Energy pulses radiated outward from the structure, and with each pulse, more of the planet's mass seemed to be converted into something else. "Well, that's definitely not good," remarked Elias Chen, the Pariah's pilot and Sarah's oldest friend. His hands danced over the control surfaces, which were a mix of standard interfaces and custom modifications. "Sensors are having trouble making sense of those energy patterns. Whatever that thing is, it's not playing by the usual rules of physics." "It wouldn't be," Sarah replied. "According to the data Vrel sent, this is a Nexus site. Ancient tech, possibly millions of years old. And now it's waking up," said Dr. Maya Okafor, examining her own readings at the science station. "The energy signature is incredible. It's generating power on a scale I've never seen." Sarah's expression remained grim. "And consuming the planet to do it." The bridge crew fell silent, watching as another pulse of energy spread outward from the structure. Where it passed, matter seemed to transform, becoming part of the expanding construct. "Captain," called Naomi Rodriguez from the communication station, "I'm picking up distress signals. Council vessels, multiple signatures. They're under attack." "Show me," Sarah ordered. The view screen shifted to display a pitched battle on the far side of the planet. A council containment fleet, sleek, standardized vessels arranged in textbook formation, was engaged with something else. The attackers were difficult to perceive clearly, their forms seeming to bend light around them. But their effect was unmistakable. Council ships were being systematically dismantled, their components absorbed into the attackers. "Harvester drones," Maya said softly, "just like in the old records. The Nexus activates, creates harvesters, and they spread outward, consuming everything to fuel further expansion." "How long before they reach populated systems?" Sarah asked. Maya's fingers flew over her console. "At their current rate of replication, 3 days to the nearest outpost, maybe 2 weeks to core council space. And the Council's brilliant plan is a containment perimeter, Sarah said with disgust. Standard protocols against something that predates their entire civilization. To be fair, Elias offered, no one's ever had to deal with an active nexus before. It's all theoretical. Not anymore, Sarah replied, her mind racing through options. The Council had rejected Vrel's request for their help, which meant the pariah and her crew were on their own. Outlaws with no official standing, facing an existential threat to the same galactic community that had banned them. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Captain," said Naomi, "Council command ship is broadcasting a general order. They're ordering a full retreat and expanding the quarantine zone. They're abandoning the system," Sarah said flatly. "Can you blame them?" asked Chen. "Look at those harvesters. Standard weapons barely slow them down." Sarah watched as another Council vessel was overtaken by the strange entities, its hull breached and its components systematically harvested. The Council fleet was already beginning to withdraw, maintaining their perfect formation even in retreat. "Standard weapons, standard tactics, standard thinking," Sarah murmured. "That's exactly why they're losing." She straightened, decision made. "Maya, I need everything you can give me on these harvesters. Weaknesses, patterns, anything. Elias, plot us a course that keeps us out of their immediate detection range. Naomi, contact the rest of the crew. I want everyone at battle stations in 15 minutes. Her officers stared at her in disbelief. "Captain," Elias said carefully, "you can't be suggesting we engage those things. Even with our modifications, we're one ship against that." He gestured at the expanding swarm of harvesters. "I'm not suggesting we fight them conventionally," Sarah replied. "That's what the Council tried, and look how well that worked. No, we're going to do what humans do best." "Which is?" Maya asked. Sarah's lips curved into a grim smile. Something unexpected. As her crew rushed to comply with her orders, Sarah took a moment to record a message. If things went wrong, and there was a very good chance they would, someone needed to know what had happened here, and what was coming. "This is Captain Sarah Voss of the independent vessel Pariah," she began, looking directly into the camera. "To anyone receiving this transmission, what you're about to see is not an act of defiance against the Council ban. It's not politics. It's survival." She paused, choosing her words carefully. This might be the last record of her existence. The Nexus is active. The harvesters are spreading. Standard containment has failed. My crew and I are attempting an alternative approach. Another pause. If we succeed, remember this. Diversity of thought is not a weakness. It's our greatest strength against the unknown. And if we fail, may whoever comes after us learn from both our attempt and the Council's. She ended the recording and set it to broadcast on all frequencies with a quantum-encrypted time delay. In 6 hours, regardless of the outcome, the galaxy would know what had happened here. "Captain," called Elias from the helm. "We're in position. The rest of the crew is standing by." Sarah nodded, pushing aside doubts and focusing on the task at hand. "Then let's show the galaxy what humans can do." The footage began spreading across secure channels first. Intelligence operatives, military commanders, high-ranking officials with access to restricted communications. Then, inevitably, it leaked to public networks. Within hours, it was being viewed in every corner of Council space, on every compatible device, by members of every spacefaring species. The footage showed a single ship, a patchwork vessel of clearly human design, approaching the massive Nexus structure. Council vessels were retreating in perfect formation, maintaining their quarantine perimeter as the harvesters continued to multiply and spread. But the human ship did not retreat. Instead, it wove through the swarm of harvesters with a flight pattern that defied conventional tactical doctrine. No predictable evasive maneuvers, no recognizable formation flying. Just pure improvisation that somehow kept the vessel one step ahead of the pursuing harvesters. "Impossible," muttered Counselor Tavik as he watched the footage for the 6th time. Their navigation systems can't possibly calculate such erratic trajectories. They aren't using automated navigation, replied Ambassador Vrel, who had been summoned to explain the unfolding situation. That's manual piloting. No sentient being has reflexes capable of. Humans do, Vrel interrupted, especially one like Elias Chen. His neural structure allows for intuitive processing that bypasses standard decision-making pathways. On the display, the human vessel, identified in the footage as the Pariah, continued its chaotic dance around the harvesters, drawing them away from the retreating Council fleet and toward the Nexus structure itself. "What are they attempting?" demanded Councillor Isrix, his compound eyes fixed on the display. "Something no Council strategist would consider," Vrel replied. "Watch." The footage showed the Pariah releasing what appeared to be small probes toward the Nexus structure. The harvesters ignored these objects, focusing instead on the larger ship that continued to evade them. "Those aren't standard probes," Vrel explained. "They're quantum resonance disruptors, modified from mining equipment." Dr. Maya Okafor theorized that the Nexus and its harvesters operate on quantum entanglement principles. "Impossible," Tavik said again. "Such technology is strictly regulated. No human should have access to." And yet, Vrel gestured to the display, where the probes were now activating around the Nexus structure, creating a visible pattern of interference that seemed to momentarily confuse the harvesters. The footage continued, showing the Pariah making another pass near the Nexus, this time releasing a different type of device, one that began broadcasting some kind of signal that caused the harvesters to alter their behavior, turning against each other in apparent confusion. "They're using the harvesters' own communication network against them," Vrel explained. Communication specialist Naomi Rodriguez discovered that the harvesters use a form of quantum signaling. She created a feedback loop that disrupts their coordination. The Council members watched in silence as the human crew executed a plan that no Council tactical committee would ever have approved. Too risky, too unorthodox, depending more on improvisation than proven protocols. And it was working. The harvesters were beginning to malfunction, their perfect coordination breaking down. The Nexus structure's energy pulses became erratic, the geometric patterns losing cohesion. But then came the turning point. "The Nexus is adapting," came a voice from the footage. Dr. Okafor, according to the subtitles. "It's neutralizing our disruption field." The footage showed the harvesters regrouping, moving with renewed purpose toward the Pariah. Several managed to attach themselves to the hull, beginning the harvesting process. "We need to disengage," called Chen from the helm. "Captain, we can't hold this position." The camera focused on Captain Sarah Voss, her expression resolute as she studied the tactical display. "The resonance pattern is destabilizing the Nexus core," she said calmly. "If we pull back now, it will restabilize and continue expanding. If we stay, we're dead," argued another crew member off camera. "Not all of us," Voss replied. She looked up from the display, addressing her crew directly. "Evacuation protocol. All personnel to escape pods." Protests erupted around her, but her voice cut through them with authority. "That's an order. I need to maintain the ship's position manually to keep the disruption field focused. The pods can reach the edge of the system before the final phase." "Final phase?" asked Shen. "Sarah, what are you planning?" The captain's smile was grim but determined. "What the Council would never approve. A recursive quantum cascade. Once initiated, the Pariah's drive core will create a feedback loop with the Nexus itself." Stunned silence fell over the bridge. "That's a theoretical concept," Dr. Okafor said slowly. "We've never tested it outside simulation. No time like the present," Voss replied. "Now go. All of you." "That's a direct order." The footage showed the crew's reluctant evacuation, the final preparations, and then, most critically, Captain Voss alone on the bridge, manually piloting the increasingly damaged vessel in a tight spiral around the Nexus structure. "Recursive cascade initiated," she said to the empty bridge, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Let's see how an ancient cosmic harvester handles a bit of human improvisation. The footage from inside the ship ended there, cut off as the cascade began. But external footage, captured by the retreating council vessels and the pariah's own escape pods, showed what happened next. A blinding flash of energy erupted from the human vessel, creating a visible connection to the Nexus structure. For a moment, both seemed to pulse in harmony. And then the pulses began to accelerate, growing more and more rapid until they merged into a continuous stream. The harvesters froze in space, suddenly inert. The Nexus structure's geometric patterns began to collapse in on themselves, the impossible angles resolving into simpler forms before breaking apart entirely. Then came the explosion, not a conventional detonation, but a reality-warping implosion that consumed the Nexus, the harvesters, the remains of the pariah, and a significant portion of the planet's already transformed mass. When it was over, nothing remained but debris and a quantum radiation signature that, according to the technical data accompanying the footage, would prevent any similar Nexus activation within 50 light-years, for at least 10,000 years. The cost: one human ship and its captain. The benefit: countless lives across dozens of systems that lay in the Harvester's projected path. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, silence reigned as the footage ended. The 7 massive pillars seemed less impressive somehow, the map of the galaxy overhead less comprehensive than it had appeared before. The question before this council, Ambassador Vrel said into the silence, is no longer whether the human band should be maintained. The question is whether we can afford to continue excluding a species capable of this kind of innovation, this kind of sacrifice, from our galactic community. One act of heroism does not erase the danger humans represent, Councillor Tavik argued, though his bioluminescent patterns suggested uncertainty rather than conviction. True, agreed Vrel. But neither does one incident at Proxima justify a permanent ban, especially when that ban nearly prevented the very intervention that saved countless lives. Councillor Isrix, who had been silent throughout the footage, finally spoke. The surviving crew members of the pariah. Where are they now? Being held at Outpost Gamma, awaiting trial for violating the ban, Vrel replied. And the data they gathered on the Nexus and its harvesters, more comprehensive than anything our own researchers compiled, Vrel said. Dr. Okafor's quantum resonance theory alone represents a significant advancement in our understanding of pre-council technological principles. Isrix's compound eyes seemed to focus on some distant point. In all my centuries on this council, I have advocated for stability, for the careful management of progress. I believed, we all believed, that this was the path to lasting peace. The ancient counselor rose from his seat, addressing the entire chamber. But the universe is not stable. It does not follow protocols. And when faced with the truly unknown, perhaps what we need is not perfect discipline, but creative chaos. One by one, the council members cast their votes. The result was not unanimous. Change never is. But the outcome was clear. The human ban would be lifted. 3 months later, in a ceremony broadcast across council space, the surviving crew members of the pariah stood before the Galactic Council to receive formal recognition for their actions. Behind them, a holographic display showed Captain Sarah Voss as she had appeared in her final message, her expression determined and unapologetically human. Elias Chen, now captain of a newly commissioned research vessel, accepted the Council's highest honor on behalf of his fallen friend. But more meaningful than any award was the sight of the first official human delegation entering the Grand Chamber, scientists, diplomats, and explorers finally taking their place among the galactic community. As the ceremony concluded, Ambassador Vrel approached Chen privately. Captain Voss's final transmission has become required viewing in Council tactical academies, she said. Her methods were unorthodox, but effective. Chen smiled slightly. Sarah would have hated being turned into a teaching tool. Perhaps, Vrel acknowledged. But her legacy extends beyond tactical innovation. The Council is already implementing structural reforms, encouraging greater diversity of approach, more flexible response protocols. It's a start, Chen agreed, though I suspect we'll still manage to irritate them on a regular basis. Undoubtedly, Vrel's mandibles clicked in what Chen had come to recognize as amusement. But irritation is a small price to pay for survival. As the newly recognized human representatives mingled with council officials, discussions were already underway for joint research initiatives, cultural exchanges, and, most significantly, a new rapid response protocol for existential threats that specifically incorporated unconventional thinking. The galaxy was changing, becoming something new, not through careful, controlled evolution, but through the messy, unpredictable process of true adaptation. It was uncomfortable for many, exhilarating for others, but necessary for all. And somewhere in the quantum echoes of a destroyed Nexus site, the legacy of human ingenuity and sacrifice continued to resonate. A reminder that in the face of the truly unknown, sometimes the most rational approach is to embrace the irrational. Sometimes, to save a galaxy, you need to break the rules.